Today, October 13th, 2020, I, Maya Hill, the interviewer, will be doing a group interview with Miss Beverly Rouse, Mr. Theodore Thompson, Miss Merle Lynn Brown, Miss Carol Merle Bright, Miss Cynthia Bayete Torres, and Mr. William Collins. This interview will be for the project, the Black Student Alumni Oral History. So welcome you guys. I'm so excited to have you here with me today to continue on our conversation about your time at Penn State University. So just to jump in, I kind of want to start off with like a little practical question. How did you guys all meet each other, and how are you guys still friends today?
Well, the simplest was orientation, I guess. Those who were there
Q House.
I'm sorry.
Q House. Q House, Kappa House.
Alpha?
I don't remember orientation.
You know, this is how I remember it. This is Rick. You know, when you went to the suites, that's how you met folks. The
Right.
Gage and Delta had suites.
Right.
And so that's
McAllen
where the gorgeous young women of Alpha Kappa Alpha sorority and Delta Sigma Theta and any other folks were there. And that's how I met these folks.
That's right.
That's what I was saying to Maya. They were Greek organizations, but they really were a lifeline for us, because that's how we kind of organized and got together and met each other. So It wasn't really about the Greeks per se. It was coming together.
Mm.
Yeah.
They were pretty much the center of Black culture for us. Yeah. In a kind of a sea of white milk, so to speak.
Yeah, it was the way we connected. I think there were only 200 of us on a good day among 26,000 students.
Yeah.
So the Greek letter groups were the way people connected and were able to have some kind of social life. Otherwise, it was a very isolated kind of experience. So
yes,
yeah.
I think
And it was funny. I was going to say, when I went to visit Howard, with a friend of mine went there. There was so much competition among the Greek letter organizations.
We were together on the bus, in the car. Remember?
Did you go? Oh,
yeah.
Lord. We were in trouble. Okay, so. They were all competing with each other, but we were at Penn State much more in concert, because if we didn't get together, all of us, there would not be enough people for
right
things. So it was kind of jarring when I realized how much competition the organizations were in outside of Penn State.
Yeah, it was jarring for me too, because we went in the same bus, and when we got out of the car, it was a Volkswagen. It was Dale, somebody's Volkswagen. We got out. Cynthia let us out at the Delta Suite, and the whole conversation, it was Carol was there. Did you come in that car with the AKA car? I was like,
get out.
What are you talking about? Oh
I
yeah,
didn't know that.
Oh yeah, we had and Carol can attest to that. We had it's a funny story, but we had to. They left us. I don't know, it's because we came with the AK, I don't know, they left us and we had to thumb a ride to these parties.
Get out.
We threw Carol out there to thumb the ride.
Don't say anything else, Beverly, about the party.
I won't.
Thank you.
I won't not say anything else. But anyway, but it was like, it was jarring that somebody would be that, it was almost like,
petty.
Thank you.
It was petty.
The word.
They were looking at our clothes and
small-minded. Okay,
wow.
But it was like, what in the world? You know, I came back and told some of my friends, I was like, I can't believe it, that they were that petty to worry about that. Okay, so you know. But
Now,
we didn't
to
have
take
that
this up a little bit higher.
Say it again.
Take this up a little bit higher. Being on campus the first time was like very isolating, and seeing somebody you didn't know who they were or where they were from, you would automatically just nod.
Give the nod.
And just give the nod. It was almost like, because back in the 60s, you couldn't get tasty cakes up at State College. So it was almost like seeing a crimpet or a chocolate cupcake, something you were familiar with, and you just kind of felt at home right away when you saw somebody. It gave you that kind of a feeling. And then you gradually would, meet them at the hub, have a Coke or a Pepsi, and then just gradually from there, you start going from East Halls over to West Halls, up to North Halls, down to Pollock, and then you felt like you were in your own little West Philly, your own little Germantown. You felt comfortable. You didn't feel threatened,
And I think also when they had orientations, I don't remember this, but Larry Griffin, I think, said to me that after they did the orientation, they came by the Simmons Hall. And so some of the Deltas, I was one of them, and we sort of whispered to the Black freshmen, when you finish, come over to the Delta suite where so-and-so. And that's how they met a group of Black people.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So noting that several of you in your interview prior to this one, you mentioned that it was the Black Greek life was a method of survival for a lot of you guys on campus during the 1960s, early 70s. So in being that you guys were only like between 17 and 21, how did you make of survival? What were some of your tactics that you guys kind of used to survive on campus? I know you mentioned, like I said, joining Black Greek life, but what were the other ways to kind of help you survive? You mentioned the store in East Hall, Mr. Thompson, that allowed people to get different items that kind of made them feel familiar to home, or recognize, have a resemblance to back at home. So what were other methods in which you guys were able to survive? I know protests and demonstrations were some of the things, but as 17-year-old young people, you guys had to do more than just protest, or more than just
party too.
Party.
Oh yeah, there were a couple of parties.
I slid down the Q house steps.
I remember that. I'm surprised you even survived.
Please say you don't remember that.
Well,
I remember all those intimidating things.
I think it was also the sign of the times. We came in a time in which things were changing, and people were more together and wanted more artistically, socially. So we kind of, and I think I had told Maya, in the beginning, and this is a generalization, I think in the beginning, years ago, in the 50s, early 60s, people that came to Penn State of color were kind of like, wow, we're here, wow, we're so lucky to be here. When we kind of came, it changed the configuration of our minds, and it almost kind of said, wow, aren't you lucky that we're here to give you another little taste of another little part of society, okay, the Black part of society. So it was almost I think how we survived, besides the other things, was that we had a sense of security about ourselves and where we wanted to go with our life. And so that kind of propelled us into, being going into classes. I think I used to tell people, I went to a class and I would be the only person of color there, and I was like, oh gosh, let me go sit in the front, because I don't want to do, I'll do a Rosa Parks, sit in the front of the bus. So I walked to the front of the class, even though I probably didn't know my lesson, and why was I up there for them to call on me? But it was still a sense of, I'm here and deal with it, basically. Okay.
For me, I looked at the fact that throughout the time that I was there, I got to see folks, whether it was Ralph Ellison or Fannie Lou Hamer or jazz musicians or whatever, and I got a kind of an idea of what things were happening outside of my own, Philly, Northwest Philly neighborhood, and then you get that idea from the whites professors that we were lucky to be there, and then I found out that our people actually built that place, built many of the buildings there. Black folks did that, and that there was a history of resistance before we showed up. And so I think that one of the things we found out when I was active in the Qs, when we went to other conclaves where we came across folks from predominantly Black colleges, that their lifestyle was different from what we had. definitely very different because we were so isolated. I think there was maybe one black staff person, one black faculty member, and so any time that I could, I saw the idea of being able to use those resources that they had at Penn State so I could move on. And then I think many of us felt the need to move on together as time passed from like 65 through 69 to 70. It was a time of change. Found out what was going on at Pitt with the Black Action Society, with the Black Student Union at Temple. They were both places where questions were being raised, even at Cheney. And so we picked some of those things up and brought those back to Penn State, that activism, the connectedness that we have with folks throughout the country.
And Maya, for me, I came to Penn State as a sophomore. So I came to Penn State knowing I wanted to pledge Delta. And so that was my first connection, and all of my socialization was primarily there. And then if you're pledging, besides doing your schoolwork, all you can do is pledge and do your schoolwork anyway. So that's where the family ties really built, came to be for me through the pledging process. I came up there in September and I was pledging in September. So that was the main thing. And through the sororities, you got to know the fraternities. The older sisters knew the older brothers, and so they would invite us, and so we got to go to the parties. And so that was sort of the connection for me.
Well, I don't know about then, but I'll come back to that. But what I find interesting is that it was a time of change, and now is a time of change.
Right.
It's kind of all, for instance, all the Greek letter organizations around the country are much more focused in one direction right now, thanks to Sister Kamala.
Yeah.
Because now you see them talking about the Divine Nine and everybody's all lined up together. This is a strength that I think people are realizing now that we have and have not recognized. I was never really active after I left Penn State, but I can see the value and the time of change also in the Black Lives Matter movement. Very much they're doing a lot of the things that we were doing at that time, or that other students around the country were doing, and then we observed them and picked up on it. I just find it very interesting. We thought we were done to a large extent with changing things, not realizing that so much more change was going to have to happen. Like, we didn't pull down any Confederate statues back then, but we're pulling them down now.
I think things run in cycles.
Yeah.
Things run in cycles. And since we're older, we're seeing that more so than ever, because it's like we're fighting for the same things we fought for 40 years ago. I mean, they're trying to push back Roe versus Wade. They're trying, a lot of the things that we were struggling for that were accepted, their voter repression. It's crazy how big of a cycle it is.
Yeah.
And I know that's true in nature. So I'm wondering if 40 years from now, our grandkids are going to be fighting that same fight.
But if you think about the cycle,
think about it, but I don't know.
You think about the cycle. 50 years ago was us. 50 years back from then was the 1920s and Tulsa and the whole immigration fight, and that, Wilson was the president and he's just as bad as Trump is now. Right. So it seems to kind of go in 40, 50 year cycles, and we're always the target.
You keep repeating something till you learn the lesson. Yeah. So I don't know.
There is if you look at the white-black binary, the whole issue of white is the plus epitome, black is the negative. Each group that comes on kind of comes into the country. The immigrants who come here, they kind of look at whites as the ones to attain, blacks as the folks to avoid. And so our issue here is always going to be struggle.
Yeah.
And there was struggle 30 years ago, 50 years ago. My hope is, and I'm not sure what will happen, that my grandkids won't have to keep going through that cycle, but we may, because there is a constant strain of white nationalism and racism. It was on the campus then, it's in the community now. With the Greek letter organization, obviously, when you have someone as visible as Benjamin Crump, who is an officer in our fraternity. He's our grand counsel, and it's the same way with some of the other Divine Nine. There are these folks who are involved, and obviously, Kamala is a kind of a point person now. But I think that I just think that we will not be pushed back. I think that no matter how much confusion goes out, we will not be pushed back. We didn't take down statues, by the way, but we did take down the American flag, so that so the state flag when they wouldn't. In 1968.
Yeah.
Some things remain the same. Struggle.
I'm glad that. Oh, yeah, Mr. Williams. I'm glad that you mentioned the flag lowering, because I actually was reading an article from the Daily Collegian, and in my paper, I kind of made mention to the flag lowering, and it was done February 21st, 1969. The flag was lowered. You got Mr. Collins and Mr. Clark Arrington and some other men and students.
That was the second time it was lowered. The first time was lowered after Dr. King was murdered.
Right.
And the movement to lower the flag. In February, we were honoring Malcolm X.
Malcolm X, yeah. Yeah, the first one that you mentioned, I don't think I found that in the Daily Collegian, but the second one I did get a chance to see in the Daily Collegian. And Mr. Collins, one of the things that you mentioned, you stated, and I quote, the university should act out of the request to honor a great man and also the request of students. So in lieu of saying this, and then also in lieu of the demands that you guys kind of presented, not kind of, but that you presented to President Walker in 1969, in what ways did the university, push back on or push back in a way to silence the voices of Black students on campus?
Well, I'm sure people remember when they arrested students and took them to Holmesburg.
Yeah.
The demonstration with the SDS in front of Old Main. They ended up taking students to Holmesburg, shaving their heads, which was illegal. Yeah. So that was a big deal. And we hid some of the Black Student Union officers in the Delta Suite. So that was a pushback.
Yeah, and I think that happened after I left. But I remember being hauled off the court by the when they were trying to throw me out for violating some rule at the. I guess we were supposed to do a curfew at Old Main, and a Black woman lawyer emerged out of nowhere to defend me in court, and I got out of that because at the time I remember I got all the Black students out of the Old Main, and I went to Mount Union to work with some Black kids who were upset with their school district. So I actually had witnesses of someplace else, but they were quite capable of doing those things. And one of the things I learned, that the idea of a university as a liberal, progressive organism was not really the case. That it was much a part of racism, institutionalized or systemic, as you can imagine. Strange things happened. A state policeman came to the frat house and said to me, Rick, I want to warn you against hanging out with radical white people. And I said, how did you know where I live? And so I said, if we wanted to prefer charges against the university for oppressing us, you would arrest them too? And the state cop looked me in the eye. I said, yeah, we would. We would arrest them. And I just didn't, I just knew that there were forces around that can answer folks, because I understood that that Raleigh and Kenny, did they hide in the Delta Suite when they came to Raleigh?
Yes, Tony Leonard and Kenny Waters. We hid them. But I thought Raleigh got arrested. I thought he was one of the ones that got arrested. I know Vince got arrested.
Yeah.
And I thought Raleigh did also. So.
The reason I didn't think Raleigh got arrested was because Raleigh got a career as a federal policeman and he retired from the federal service, federal law enforcement. That wouldn't be something, a job that he could have gotten if he gotten busted.
Well, I don't know. Maybe they were trying to hide that because that was illegal, what they did to those students. They shouldn't have swept them up like that. They shouldn't have taken them to Holmesburg Penitentiary. So maybe that was dropped. I don't know. But I kind of remember Raleigh was one of the ones. I meant to call Tony, but I never got around to it because I asked him a couple of weeks ago, do you remember when people got arrested? And he said, yeah, I do. So he probably has some additional information. But I remember he was one of the ones we hid in the Delta Suite. We were really on a Harriet Tubman vibe that day. Because I'm serious. We were all like looking, we said, this is it, but we got to protect the brothers. We got to hide them. It was deep. I remember that feeling. I remember it so clearly. I remember standing in Simmons Hall and wondering what's going to happen to us. I really did. So that was a trip.
And,
when was that, Meryl?
See, why are you asking me dates, Cynthia?
Well,
that 1970?
No,
it was back
No,
in
that's
the
1969. I think it's 1969. I saw, like I said, I found two different articles. Yeah.
That's what we got the young people for.
Thank you,
Because I graduated in June of '69, and I remember seeing this picture with Raleigh and a bunch of folks in the middle of a football field, where they had some demonstration and whatnot in a black. And I saw Raleigh, walking off the field with his right hand clenched. Yeah.
Wow.
Do any of you remember when we went to Old Main to at a demonstration when that coach Paternal spoke, and Walker didn't respond to our demands, and so we had a demonstration at this football rally at Old Main, and so some of us, when they sat down, we stood up with our clenched fist and kind of disrupted the whole thing. Now I remember that because one of the main things was trying to get out there alive, because they were surrounded.
I think there's a picture of that somewhere. I think there's a picture of Raleigh and someone else, maybe it was Kenny or someone, going off the field. So it is somewhere. I remember seeing it. Maya, you had it? Did you not?
Yeah, I do have that picture.
Right. I missed a lot of that because I graduated even before, like in February of '69. So of course I missed a lot of the happenings, the good happenings, March, April, and May. So I missed the Underground Railroad thing. Okay.
Yeah. The other thing so different now is the role of Black women as in terms of leadership, like Black Lives Matter. That is really what I call Black girl magic all over the place. And that's something very different. The role of Black women as leaders, the center of the Democratic Party, et cetera, et cetera. That's something that's come to the fore.
Yeah,
I don't think we differentiated that so much back then for us, because I think the women were just as involved and as influential and outspoken as we were. So I didn't.
You know, Ted,
Yeah.
One of the things I remember, there was a big need that black men had to be in front. That was a big thing that came out of.
Oh, definitely that.
Big time. Yeah.
But,
even though sisters did all the work, as far as I could see. He did most of the work.
What are you talking about? The Black Arts Festival?
Well, not just that, but when I was in California, or even in Pennsylvania, I was in grad school, when they had whether it was black or Puerto Rican guys from young boys, the women would be the ones who ran the educational programs, the breakfast programs, whatever. They did all that work. When we had a Black Power conference in Philly, women did a lot of the organization for that.
Right. Mm-hmm. Well,
yeah.
that's true.
And now
the Black church,
is,
I mean,
yeah.
we played a part. Maybe it wasn't talked about as much, but we were right there in the, you know, we were in the ranks, we were fighting. Just like I said, we hid the guys at the Delta Suite. So that was women.
Yep.
We had, I don't know if you all were there when we did a night for our kings. I don't know if people remember that affair. It was Frederick Douglass Association. We decided to honor the men, and we felt like we should, you know, like you said, stand with our men, support the men. So we had a night for our kings with entertainment and food. Do you guys remember that?
Vaguely remember. I vaguely was at it. Sometimes they had stuff at the Hillel Center or something. Was it one of those things?
It was one particular occasion. And Carol actually had an invitation from back then. These historians, her and Eberly, woo, they kept that stuff. It's a little tattered and yellow now.
Yeah, like probably something like this.
Yeah, but you have it. You have it.
If you kind of look at that time, I think one of the things that we tried to do with the Douglass Association, and then became the Black Student Union, was always to keep having an action, some sort of thing that would keep us to the forefront. And it seemed as if, to my mind, there were continual activities that we were involved in. Whether it was teach-ins or whether it was demonstrations or whether it was confrontations, whatever it was, to keep our demands to the forefront. It was to the point that when I graduated, I was surprised. I got through it in 4 years and I'm out.
I made it.
You know, something that I wish I could have. I never thought to do this when I was there. When I met Fannie Lou Hamer, if I'd have thought about it, when I was a freshman, when they brought her to eat at Russ Hall, of all places, and someone said, "Rick, you should meet this woman." And I sat down, and then I spent, I cut classes. That was just an amazing woman. I wish I could have thought about having her connected so that sisters and other people, other than me, got a chance to talk to her. But I was just, I spent hours with her. And I don't think I would have had that opportunity if I wasn't at Penn State, because they had all these resources. They could bring people up and, in fact, I was there, I thought they had unlimited resources,
There were unlimited resources. We tapped into them just a few times. I'm thinking of Muhammad Ali came to camp.
He came up there.
Yeah.
And then some of us got to spend some time with him, just talking,
because they had
hanging out after, I don't know where it was, somewhere, but it was like somebody's apartment or something.
That apartment, Cynthia. Cynthia, do you remember they had an after party for him, and he came over to Don, the graduate student.
Oh, okay.
What was it? Yeah, and so people got a chance to provide what we call FaceTime now.
Yes.
Yeah. What year was that?
Yeah, we got money for the Black Arts Festival. We got money for that montage. And then, when Walker told us it was impossible for them to bring on more Black students, well, then increased it to about 800 black students in the fall. So we knew they were lying.
Yeah.
Well, even when I came to campus, when that year, they recruited a bunch of people, or they accepted a bunch of students from my high school, and it was like an almost automatic acceptance. If you think about all the people were there, I don't know about other schools, but Germantown High School, there were about 10 or 12 of us who were admitted to Penn State just from that school. And it was like, did I apply? Not sure, but I'm in, but okay. I think there were two tracks. There was the racist, repressive track, and then again, it was a time of change, and there were people trying to increase the number of black students at Penn State. There were people trying to funnel money into activities that were, like bringing Muhammad Ali to campus and supporting the Arts Festival, the Montage, and other things. And then there was the other side of it, which I think some of the young men there at the time felt more intensely of, police interference and activity and so forth. But there was definitely something going on in terms of bringing, at least attempting to bring us into that school and onto those campuses, those Penn State campuses. I don't know. And then the thing of bringing a whole nother 100 in, 4 or 5 years down the road, yeah, they had the resources to do it.
Cynthia, I'm wondering, what did you get money from the university when we did the montage? And what was the process with you and Shelley to come up with that idea?
Yeah.
That was a key thing for my expansion as sophomore, the montage.
Well, we were both artsy oriented, theater, performing, whatever.
You were the queens of the culture.
We were the cultural side.
That's right.
I mentioned to Maya that one of the things that made me really happy was when we did that building the wall in the president's office. The engineering students made that happen, which meant that Ray Skinner and various other, it seemed like that's when the guys became more involved as far as we were concerned, because I had heard about that at Cornell, that they built a wall in the president's office and put a black brick on top, but I certainly had no idea how to make the wall stand. Okay, so we got the guys, but Shelley and I were both into the arts, and I was in the theater department a lot. And one of the things that pushed me was in Philadelphia, I'd be involved with theater, Freedom Theater, and so forth. And it was a very enriching experience. At Penn State, the theater department, it was cold. And I did get some parts, but one of them was as a maid doing something.
Of course. Of course.
I don't remember if I took that part or I rejected it. I probably rejected it, power to the people and all. But so that's what drove me to want to do something else. And I was into poetry and all that. And Shelley was into it, and Martina. And so we all kind of put the piece together. And then I had to ask permissions from publishing houses for some of the material we used, and the English department paid for it. They put money into it. I forget exactly how we went about it, but suddenly, we have money for this and we can pay for that.
I never knew that.
Yeah, and I have the letters from the publishers.
Really?
And so I forget exactly what the question was, but anyway.
It was about the money, how you got started, and why, the question should be, why didn't we take that? Duh.
Yeah,
Well,
that's a good question.
Beverly,
That's a good
Beverly,
leeway question.
she's
But why
very
didn't-
concerned
were
that
so
we
black.
did not preserve it, but we do have the script, and maybe someday someone else will do it, and
This
we
is the
will
poster.
take them. Yes,
There's
we
the
have
poster.
Day in the life.
yes, we have the art and we have the script, and we're, thanks to Maya, we're paying more attention to documenting what went on. I have a ton of pictures from the Black Arts Festival, which
wow.
I'll work with whomever to try to get them to you. Maybe I can put them online or something, but I have certainly Rick in a meeting and Meryl and various other people doing various things. So I'll try to, now that Maya has gotten us involved in this project.
I think it was Miss Carol. She was
oh, that's right.
the
Carol's
mediator
the
between
instigator.
me and everyone else.
So after this, I'm going to do my best to get those photos, because we have a ton of them from the art festival. We have a few
I'd love to see them.
Yeah, we have a few from the montage. I think Shelley had some more, but I don't have any idea how I get those, if they still exist. But anyway, we did.
So
I did it because I was hungry to perform and to work with the poetry that I was familiar with, and they just weren't going to do it for us, so we had to do it for ourselves.
Right.
And I was hungry for the dance part. You know, as soon as someone asked me about doing a choreography, I was like, oh yes, I know a lot of things I can put into place with this. Okay. So, so I was really, you know, that was a great thing for me. I really enjoyed that.
Yeah, it gave us all an opportunity to express what we truly wanted to express, with nobody saying, no, you can't do this because.
Right.
You know.
But it was that was really the first time that we all got together, no matter what your affiliation was, to put on a production primarily for ourselves.
Yeah.
Right.
Everybody else saw it was wonderful, but it was a chance for us to put a shine.
Yeah.
And I think it also was a chance for people to really, who weren't familiar with certain passages and certain things about Black life, to really grasp it and to appreciate it more. So I think we put that out there for folks to kind of like continue on with that, with the workings and the writings and the readings and that kind of thing of people of color that, you know, we so desperately wanted and needed.
Yeah.
And you're right about that, Beverly.
I really don't remember the montage as much as I do the Black Arts Festival. And the Black Arts Festival seemed to have more impact, but then the Black Arts Festival obviously followed the montage. The montage was no doubt a building brick, because I just remember the Black Arts Festival now. How as president of the BSU, I got to spend time with Ruby Dee, and that was just great.
Yeah,
great.
Right.
So I thought she was among the more beautiful women on the whole planet. So.
Oh, she was. It would have been no Black Arts without the montage.
I'm just saying.
That's the key, because I had never going to school in Lower Merion. I knew nothing about Black poets.
Right.
So from what Cynthia introduced, her and Shelley gave me more of an impetus to find out more.
Right.
So I think I told Maya, so by the time I was a senior and I had an American poetry course and they didn't have one Black poet, it was like I had enough information then to say, no, this is not going to go. And I'm not buying a book that doesn't have any Black poets in it.
Right.
And then ended up having to teach a class because the professor said, I don't know any Black poets.
Yeah.
And so, because we had Don L. Lee come and Sonia Sanchez, and I could basically bring all those things to the class. This is what you're talking about, Rick?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was the first Black Arts Festival, and then the second one in 70 was this, Motion.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So what were you guys' favorite part of the Black Arts Festival? From whether it be the culture aspect of I guess like poets or music or any other things that you guys did during that week? Was it this, even in the process of setting up, what were some of, your most memorable things that I guess that you took away from the Arts Fest and that, you kind of see that were really important for the Black community, but also for the overall community at the university?
For me,
so that's like 3 different questions.
Yeah.
So you guys can like.
Well, with me, I was more into the writing. So it was myself and Bob Moses who were given the task of coming up with some kind of publication for the Black Arts Festival. Black Arts Festival #1, which was 69. And just the whole experience of going through meeting publishers, printers, finding out all of that, and then the process of planning and getting people to write. That was a skill that I learned there that I carried on through my life with publishing things. So that was a key element for me. And I guess that's what college is supposed to be about, where you basically have experiences, you develop skills that you can take into adulthood and use forever.
Yeah. And we did get that.
Me,
got that from the festival, from the montage, from the political, which I think Rick and Ted were more on the political side, the organizing and so forth. That was a great learning experience. I didn't go to class much during that time. That would have been helpful too. But yeah, I did learn some things in the classroom too. Yeah.
For me, the whole collective coming together to do a project like none other that was seen on campus before. And quite frankly, not the white students or anybody else had done anything like that. And we proved that our visibility and the tightness of the organization, as I remember now anyway, for putting on the Black Arts Festival. All that presentation of Black life as writers, as performers, etc. To me was just fabulous. I wish I could hold of one of those programs. Where you live at, bro? I'm gonna break in your house to get that.
And I mean, Rick, you're right, because we had the resources. We could plan a whole week of activities. I'm not sure if everybody could see from a Monday through a Sunday. We had something going every day.
Yeah, every day. And we even had a piece where folks talked about politics and where do we go from now. We just had it was a great thing.
I think it gave people a great sense of pride.
Yeah.
A great sense of pride that we're carrying with us right now. So
yeah.
And and the other thing is, to give Ted a shout out, we were really proud when Ted became, the head. We were like, okay, we're up there now. Let's go. Okay.
The thing about it is, when I was doing my little thing, and then Walker would try to co-opt me, I said, no, you got to talk to Rick. Rick is the head of that. I'm just the general student body thing. If it's Black, you talk to Rick. So they wanted to do a divide and conquer. We did a divide and we conquered them that way. Because they tried to play us against each other and we wouldn't let it happen.
Exactly. Yeah.
Which was
To your credit, to our credit, yes.
That's right.
That's right. Because they wanted to play a game just like the vice president for student affairs. I really despised him. So I had to bring him down. So instead of calling him Dr. Lewis, I called him Chucky. Whenever I would be putting something in the Daily Collegian, I would be talking about Chucky did this and Chucky did that, and it's not to the benefit of the students. So they tried to work us against each other. Like there was a situation where they were supposed to be giving a presentation at a football game and they forgot to turn on the mic so that those on the field who were speaking couldn't be heard by the students. I mean, they did really dumb, dastardly things to us, but I think we eventually got over on them because the whole Black Arts Festival was the prototype for the whole arts festival now that they have for Center County. I mean, that was a prototype for them. And we did it tight and cheap.
Interesting.
So how did the university see you guys? Because I actually had a chance to look at a small video clip. It was from 1969. Mr. Thompson, I mentioned this to you,
Yeah.
and one of the guy, I guess the moderator of the conversation, he described Black students as being militant. So how, some of you guys actually expressed in your interviews that you did see yourself as a little bit more militant, and the other few of you guys mentioned that it was kind of as if this is what you guys were supposed to be doing, instead of like, you didn't view it as student activism, but this was your way to, again, going back to the point of survival, this is how you survived on campus. So yeah, were you guys militant, or were you guys just doing what you had to do to survive? Like I said, because you guys all said differing things in your interview.
I think that there's a whole piece of being tactical, okay? And knowing where you
tactical.
For example, if I needed to speak to the university senate, then I would talk to Dr. Lewis and have him introduce Dr. Lewis. He was the only Black faculty member. Or if we wanted to get something through to the USG or whatever it was, then we would talk to Ted. One time, and then at one point, you may remember.
We had Jesse Arnell too.
Dressed in blackface and run around with fake afros and whatnot. So, I talked to the three members who are members of the IFC, and I spoke for the IFC, and I told them, if you guys continue wearing blackface, I cannot speak for the safety of the people who do that.
That's right.
I said, I can't speak for the safety of the folks. And so then, of course, they would talk to the Paul Mark or the boss list or the president office. They should control him or something. And they just said, well, we're with him. So we had to threaten them so they wouldn't paint themselves in black. They wouldn't wear around and carry phony spears and act like they were true Fijians, who are quite good-looking brothers and sisters of that veteran. But no, sometimes you had to be that way. But when I told somebody one time, look, if you think I'm militant, there's some guys who aren't in this room who really want to punch you in the face.
I think
the term also, militancy comes in a lot of forms and fashions. And there's always room, even in the militant stage, there's always room for those who aren't, because my point was, when they put everybody in jail, they'll still need those outside people to kind of ease themselves in and give them food and water from the outside. So basically, I think at that point, we realized that people were more involved maybe than other people because of their situation or because of the fact that they had an inroad, but that didn't stop the people on the outside. It's almost like, don't let them see you really know what you really are. Don't let them know who's militant, who's not militant, who's doing this, who's doing that, because they'll use that against you, and they'll as Ted said, they'll try to divide and conquer. So you just let them think that they know the people on the surface. You don't know about what's going on underneath. Okay.
Well, I think that's how, we wear the mask. We knew how to do that. And I think for myself, I think there was a struggle as far as militancy, because I admired Martin Luther King and how he conducted himself, and how people were so committed that they let themselves get beaten up, eaten up by dogs, water hoses, But then I was with Malcolm X, because how much of that are you supposed to take? So to me, it grew my militancy. And when they killed Martin Luther King, it changed something for me.
Yeah.
It did. I was all the way Black Power.
I think we were a lot more mature for our age at 17, 18,
Well, I
19,
think
20.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, I don't know. We were an interesting group. I don't know if it was because we were so isolated that certain things were magnified. I don't know what it was. But I arrived there talking about some things which people said, oh, Cynthia's militant. Well, I didn't feel like going to war or anything, but I did have experiences before I got to Penn State that made me a little different. First of all, I was younger, which probably folks didn't realize. Yes, I'm younger. And I got there, I was just 17, but I had spent the summer marching. I had met Martin Luther King. I had a cousin who was very much involved in the Selma voting rights activity, who one day I opened the Philadelphia Tribune and she was on the front cover being beaten and set upon. So when I arrived at Penn State, those were the things I had experienced. Martin Luther King had come to Philadelphia, had led a march around Girard College. I was involved in this Quaker organization, which also Martin Luther King had been involved in when he was a student somewhere in Philadelphia suburbs and learned about nonviolence. And the Quakers, of course, were very much into supporting nonviolent protests. So those things had happened sort of accidentally to me in some ways, because a friend of mine, her father got us involved with Fellowship House, which was the Quaker organization. She didn't stick with it, but I did. And I kept going every week. They would have these little meetings and they had foreign students come in, and then we had to prepare for Martin Luther King coming to Philadelphia. And all those things happened just that summer before I went to Penn State. And then when I got to Penn State, nothing. There was nothing. And it was jarring. And so I would talk about those things and people would say, oh, you're militant. You were marching on the federal building and you met Martin Luther King. You were marching on Girard College. Well, I wasn't quite as militant as perhaps I seemed. But I was like, okay. And again, you had said, why the montage? Part of that was because I wanted company. I wanted more people to be in that space that through various circumstances I had entered before coming to Penn State. And it did happen. The montage, everybody got all excited about the literary parts. And then Rick and his group were getting in trouble in various ways, you know, with some racial component, and it all built up. And then the next year, the Arts Festival expanded the whole thing, and the various other activities like the Deltas hiding the guys, you know, all those things, more and more people became quote unquote militant. I call it aware. We were becoming more aware of the wider problem, the world. So if that's militant, power to the people.
That's right.
But you know, even though one of the things that Penn State did for me was, we won't be able to tell on this call, because I think everybody here is from the Philly area on the call. When I got to Penn State, I got to meet Black folks from these other places, Harrisburg and Altoona and Pittsburgh. Here. And, first of all, I was amazed because I thought Black communities from some of these other places weren't as advanced as ours was. It wasn't the case, that's what I believe, until I got to know these guys. but I got to interact with so many different Black folks from other places, including from other countries and whatnot. One of the things Merle said about keeping the mask on, I still can't remember how we were able to march from up South Island, get all those bricks, paint them black, and surprise the university because they never knew what moves we were gonna take. Of course, then sometimes we didn't know what moves we were going to take. Sometimes we didn't know either. Of course, I think every generation wants to think that, okay, we solved this, we've done this. But no, I mean, obviously, what happened with Brianna and George and Tamir, and it just goes on. Sandra, it just goes on and on and on. The fact that our people are locked up in these prisons, where the 13th Amendment does not apply. The 13th Amendment servitude doesn't apply, and our people are locked up in these places. I think that the term the Mozambican folks is luta continua, that the struggle continues. Yeah. And listen, my daughter and grandkids were in demonstrations down in Arlington. My mom was official in the state NAACP in Virginia. I'm just saying that all these things connected. My dad supported demonstrations that I went to in Philly, Girard College. When we launched on those demonstrations at Penn State, I called my parents and I said to Mom, things are happening here. I might be thrown out of college. My mom said, "But can you get somebody else to do this?" I said, "Okay." I said, "Let me talk to Pop." Pop got on the phone, listened to what I had to say. He said, "Listen, Negro who can't cope is a weak Negro. You're my son, so let me finish the sentence, so you won't be weak." In other words, you had to be supporting my stance, but I was giving them warning because I promised them when I started that I was going to graduate from that place and move on. I always saw that as a temporary spot. I always thought I had to, move on. And I think that when I talk with the Black students who are there now, who seem to be so, I think they're all young, gifted, and Black. And they have in the Black Lives Matter movement, and I always see the glass at 90% full, 90% full, and that we're going to win. I was just hoping to be alive to see that, but then there's some of our people that we love, they're not alive to see it. They're not alive now. My cousin Michael, the land is gone. Other folks is gone. Forrest Vince gone. So the struggle will continue these generations. I just think that I just don't think they can push us back.
Merle said was right. Cycles. We're going with just a constant cycle of life. And we were in one cycle, and we've trained, basically taught our children and grandchildren to continue that cycle in their way.
It's a process. And I think winning is being involved in the process. I don't know about the end goal. I don't know. The Creator's in charge of that. But I think our job is to be the best people we can be. Yep. And that means struggling where we are, struggling with our families, in our homes, everywhere, to be the best we can be. That's winning. That's the process is what we're striving for, to me.
And I think, I was mentioning before that.
I agree. Yeah, I agree with that. 100%.
Doing a little self-promoting. My niece is up there at Penn State now. She graduated a year or so ago. She's working at Penn State, but when she graduated, she had created a magazine for students of color that is still ongoing now.
What's her name of the magazine again?
The
Sovereign
magazine's called
magazine?
Sovereignty. Sovereign.
Okay.
Yeah.
And my niece is Adrienne Thompson, and she's now working at Penn State, and she's now their sponsor or faculty advisor or whatever they call it.
Wow.
And so that's, you know, just as they say, the struggle just continues on from
Yes,
one
it
generation
does.
to the next.
Yes.
Faculty advisor for the Black Caucus up there or whatever it is.
Yeah.
He's back, yeah. What's the name of the
Miss
magazine?
Beverly, what did you?
Magazine's called Sovereign, like the sovereign
Sovereign.
state of, just sovereign.
Okay.
And it's into it like its 3rd or 4th year. She created when she was a student.
That's wonderful.
Yeah. Very
Miss
good.
Beverly, you wanted to say something?
I was going to
Before-
say, in light of what we're all talking about, you know, James Baldwin would say, I don't know exactly, it was in an essay or something. Not everything that is faced can be changed, but nothing can be changed unless it is faced. And so basically, you know, we have to keep the struggle continues as we always know. And things stay the same, things change, but they'll never do anything unless we face them and continue on. So I really, you know, in light of what everyone else is saying, I really want to hand it to the younger people because they really are taking that ball and running with it. Okay.
Yeah, child, because they were out there in that hot weather. They were out there in that rain. I said, whoa, go ahead, children. But I know I saw some older people and I kind of felt like I should have been out there too, but I didn't go in March, but I support them wholeheartedly.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not saying there might be a time where I'm gonna have to go with them. I don't know, you know, but I didn't do it this time, but I just admire them. I admire the struggle. I think they're facing a lot of challenges as far as being co-opted, because I think some of that looting and stuff, I saw pictures where it was white folks in blackface doing some of these things. A pallet of bricks. Now, what black people you know are gonna have a pallet of bricks someplace where they can use that to break into these stores? And it just didn't sound like us.
No.
And I think there's a whole lot of subversive stuff. Well, you see what happened when they trying to kidnap the governor of Michigan. Those people are on the move too. They're on the move too. So, I mean, it's something that our young people are gonna have to face and something that we have to be aware of as well. I mean, those people, they got plenty guns, lots of guns.
Exactly.
So,
And we were acutely aware of the fact that the KKK was headquarters were up in Bowlesbury. Was it Bowles? Yeah. We were, that all sort of loomed around us, that we knew we were in the center of the state where folks did not necessarily want us to be there.
They hated your guts, okay?
Yeah.
I lived in town. I left, got married, and came back. And living in town, I saw how much of a bubble the students were in. We couldn't go to the supermarket. We would go to Ames. We would go different places and people would stare at us, call us names. I mean, all the time. Center Square was one of the hot spots of the KKK. Center County was one of the hot spots. You really saw it when you lived in town.
You know, one of the more bizarre things that I engaged in while I was up there, they had this teaching at East Hall. And so I was on one table and they had this Ku Klux Klan guy from Baltimore that they called up. And so we were engaged in some sort of debate or something like that, which is, what could I debate with him about? Whenever he would try to make a point, I would always reach over and touch his arm, which would then freak him out in the middle of a sentence. Yeah, absolutely. That was just, it was really bizarre.
You threw him off his game.
That nasty game. But with the POTUS encouraging the Proud Boys, the Boogaloo Boys, and all these other folks who are willing to do anything, whether it's murder of U.S. security security person in Oakland, or whether it's planned to kidnap a governor who was only trying to protect the people in her state.
2 governors now.
Yeah, and so these guys, and we don't have to go far in South Philly when they were walking around trying to protect the Columbus statue.
Yeah.
Those guys had AR-15s. You know?
If you want to see laws change, let some black men with long guns start parading up and down the street. There will be gun control.
The Black Panthers.
That's right.
That always happened. The Panthers in California.
That's why they changed.
That's right.
That's
what
right.
really. They had a breakfast program, but they ignored the breakfast program.
Right.
They just wanted to say those niggas got guns. That was the whole thing.
When they went to Sacramento,
yeah.
When they went to Sacramento with those weapons, the state assembly, the state senate, they Ricky Ticky got a bill out, and the governor,
how quick?
Governor Reagan signed it. Boom, the fastest ever.
It take about 5 minutes.
Yeah. And you know, and the Panthers were another organization that the sisters really ran it. Homegirl, Elaine Brown, and those folks.
Right.
They set up a high school. They set up breakfast programs. They did all that stuff.
And that infiltration was a negative when they were infiltrated by the outside people.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. But when you saw that the Attorney General, who doesn't work for us, drew up a list of Black Lives Matter leaders so they could arrest them. They're not sure for what they want to arrest them. Yeah.
Yeah. So just to reel it back in a little bit.
Okay.
Reel it back into Penn State. No, you guys made so many good points on the outside world, and also how going to Penn State kind of sheltered you from a lot of different things, and not say sheltered in the sense of like you weren't exposed to anything, but kind of kept you in a bubble of what'd you say?
Insulated you, not it insulated. It's insulated you guys. So when you're looking back and even in joining me for this interview and also being involved in this project, I did mention legacy to all of you guys and what legacy you guys had in play in how Penn State has progressed today. So I do have a question in regards to preserving documents and even, like I said, preserving your stories to be, stored within the archive and published, hopefully online, so that other students in the years later to come, they will have access to. So why did you guys keep newspapers? Why did you guys keep photographs? And of course, you want to have memories, but now that we have cell phones, we have iCloud, I can just store that stuff on my phone instead of having the hard documented information. So why did you guys preserve those documents? What did they mean to you? As of when you first, got the documents, whether it be from, the Daily Collegian, the newspaper stand, or, you took the pictures yourself, and what do they mean to you now as you reflect back? Do they mean more to you now than they did to you, when you were a student, or, do they have the same, resonance as they did when you first, took it? For
me, it was keeping things that I was involved in. That was, if I'm involved with something, I wanted to keep, and they were publishing things and writing things about it, it was important for me to keep that. So that's why I have so many of the, I had the magazines for the Black Arts Festival because I was involved in both of them. And because being involved with the BSU, I had like the minutes and I had the different programs. And when things were, not like we got, newspaper coverage all the time, but that was important to try and keep. So for me, and I guess also being a pack rat and being a person who appreciates words, that's why I have all this stuff from the 60s.
I think some people have the responsibility as historians. They might not even realize it, but we have people within our race, if you would say, that have charged with that responsibility of holding those things. To me, they mean more now than back then. Back then, I was doing and moving. Now I can look back and see what we were doing and how proud I was of what we were doing, and how, like, look at Maya coming up. I mean, she just tickles me to death, because she is the hopes and the dreams of the slaves. I mean, she's the next generation coming forward and keeping those things precious, because they are precious. So I think some people have a responsibility. You, Beverly, you're one of them. Even though you say, okay, I got all this stuff and, you know, you're knee deep in it, but that's the responsibility of a historian, to keep those records.
I hope it's not because I'm older, but the other part about it is also, besides being a little pack ratty, I always trust what I can feel in my hand. I know it's a new day. I'm so happy that, you know, that now we can use the phones and other media. But for me, if in case things get tricky, I still got it in my hand.
Yeah. They tricky. They're already tricky.
Okay, trickier, excuse me. They get trickier and they feel like eliminating everything from whatever.
Because who knows where the cloud is? Do you know where the cloud is?
Right.
You put stuff up in the cloud and you can't find it.
Yeah, that's exactly. I still have those things in my hand. And it's like Merle said, and you kind of look back on them, you kind of say, wow, you know, how interesting. And also, you know, some of these things you're able to use. You can go back into your things and, you know, if you're doing some other work or some other kind of theatrical anything, you can kind of go back and utilize and pick, you know, because the more things change, the more they stay the same.
The same. That's right.
And sometimes you just want to kind of keep it for within the family, that you did this when you were in college and then you started doing this afterwards. It kind of the same with my niece. She went to the same high school I did, and she also was the senior class president in high school. So there's some things that kind of seem to carry on a little bit from there. So, and you want to show them the collegiate, maybe something in the Inquirer, and on and on and on, so they can sometimes strive to be similar or better than you know?
That's right.
I can always take them back to the old Woolworths. You know, take them back to Woolworths where you tried to sit at the counter and they wouldn't serve you, but that's
ain't no Woolworths.
Yeah, I know. So one way of getting even is they go out of business.
Exactly. Or we used to come up from Penn State. I remember when I would come up to visit when I was in high school, I couldn't even get a hot dog at the bus station. That's me. I was like,
Interesting.
Is the connection?
I hope not.
She's frozen.
Yeah.
So of course you're not going to get a hot dog then. Okay. So that was their little ways of doing it.
Okay.
Miss Cynthia, you were going to say something.
No, I think, you know, as I moved from one stage to another, from, you know, merit stage to graduate school, I went back and forth across the country, and things got lost. Things got lost in terms of some information, things that I didn't even remember. But I think now, I mean, obviously, if we had an actual computer nerd type person with us, somebody who would have the way that people can keep records and stuff now. Now, granted, it's good to have something that you can feel in your hands. We just never really thought about that much then. At least I did, because I was always looking forward and not even thinking about how important this might be years later on. I just, you know, it was just a period in time, and I moved on. And then one time when I went back for a reunion, and someone was telling me about their first Black Arts Festival that they had in 1980 or something, I said, that's not the first Black Arts Festival.
Right.
Oh, no, that wasn't the first person. It said, you know, and then, you know, so and then I learned finally that when Black people had built all those buildings at Penn State's campus, and there was no record that they were even there, and the people who ran Penn State acted as if those folks had never existed. So, and that often happens in our society. For our
See, I didn't know that.
People. Yeah. Well, you know, the WPA stuff, doing war, whatever. There were people up there building stuff at Penn State. Our people were there.
CCC camp, I think it was.
Yeah. Our people have done a lot in this country that folks don't remember or have put aside. What is it? Lost or stolen or forgotten?
Right.
Stolen or given away. I think that's the name of the book or something.
Yeah.
Maya, if you just
Miss
look
Cynthia?
at everybody around here, you can see how everybody, we were there at the same time, but everybody did different things. We used different talents. Like Merle said, like some people are preservers of documents. Some people are the doers and take the action to jump out there. Some people are the creative people. So everybody, based on their talents, contributed to put all this stuff together. And I think that's good.
Yes.
Yeah. Miss Cynthia, you were going to say something?
I just have enjoyed hearing and listening to everyone. Sometimes you do things and you don't realize the impact that the action has and the ripple effects. I can say Carol in particular mentioned that her experience at Penn State opened her mind to a lot of things, a lot of written word and so forth. And I didn't realize the impact because once I left Penn State, I'm like someone else said, I kind of closed the book on it. I preserved some of the materials. Every once in a while, I would look at them and remember, wow, that's some of the best work I ever did. But then I closed the book because life gets in the way and you have other things to do and you move on. But I will say I am grateful for this experience, for Maia's work. I am happy to know that threads are being connected, where, as Rick said, he went up there in 1980 and they didn't, or he, you know, or heard about a festival in 1980 and they thought that was the first one. So I love that these threads are being pulled together, that we're going to have some real history acknowledged and preserved in the archives. It just makes me feel it's very gratifying because it is a chapter that was very meaningful in my life and that I had pretty much closed the door on and moved on. But I'm glad it's being recognized of all of what we did. It was a very active period. Many great things went on in that time from 65 to 70. And people should know about it. And it's good that Maia is doing the work to help Penn State keep a better record of what African-American students have done there over time. So I'm thrilled. I just want to thank everyone for all you things that you've done and for contributing to this project, because I just think it's great.
Me too. I was fussing at Carol and said, what you got me into now?
Yeah.
I was like, what? But
well, she kept sneaking it in every once in a while. She say, well, this
thank you, Miss Carol.
Working on a project, you know, and all of a sudden now here we all are, and it's growing. It's growing.
It's wonderful. It is wonderful, and I feel blessed that I was able to have this experience. I really do.
And I kind of brought it. We owe it, as Merle said, we owe it to folks in Maya's age group. We owe it to them to let them know what we felt, what happened, what didn't happen, and how we help feel they can carry on the ball after we leave. I wanted
Yeah.
to ask, not to cut you off, Merle, Maya, what did you think about when you looked and saw there was a missing part of our history? What did you think?
Oh, the question's on me now.
Okay,
Oh,
That's
wow.
right.
Okay.
Flip the
I'm
script.
kidding. Yeah. I guess I'll just be honest. I think I went to like maybe one protest that they had at Penn State during my time there, but in my time there, I guess there was always maybe a small protest going on, in I guess, what is that, Allen Street, like somewhere like, in the front of Old Main, but it wasn't something that pertained to things to whether it be progress the Black student body forward or any of those matters. So I just kind of was like, this is not for me. But when I did this research, I guess because I like this time period of history, I like the 1960s, well, maybe starting with the 1940s to like the 1980s. That's the type of history I kind of like focused on in my time at Penn State. I kind of just realized in talking with my professor, and even, like I said, going back to the archives, I realized that whoever told the story was not told completely, and it was only one-sided. And when you read a story and you want to piece different things together, you want to have access to all the pieces of the story. You don't want just one photograph or one article that can only explain a limited amount of things that occurred in that time period. So when I went to the archives, I didn't find much information, and I just kept wondering. I'm like, well, this can't just be it. Like this, there has to be more. And my advisor Angel, who kind of helped me in the archive, she kind of just tried to help me figure out like where are these other documents, and we tried the best that we could, but I just really couldn't put it all together. So after I wrote my research paper that I can cycle around to everyone, Miss Carol has, I don't know if you finished reading it, but hopefully.
Almost.
Oh wait, did I freeze?
It looks like.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I was mentioning that Miss Carol had the opportunity to read my research paper, and she can make mention to maybe some of the pieces that are missing and some of the pieces that I actually was able to include. But and for me, just understanding history, I guess, Ms. Beverly, to try to answer your question the best way I can, you really have to have a lot of information to try to piece it together, or it won't be sufficient. Like you can't make a story without huge gaps missing.
Yeah.
I tried my best to make a storyline, and it worked. It sounded good for my research paper. My professor enjoyed it, and I tried my best to present a history that was not in the archive, or that wasn't accessible, or even included as university history. But I think in doing this, these interviews with you guys and furthering on the project, I have really realized that the absence of stories of individuals, they will continue to leave history blank. If you don't actually have individuals inserting their own story, their own experience in the history that they were involved in, they will continue to be blank. And there will be a generation, even for me, or even following after me, who go back to and try to like look at these pictures, or look at these articles, or even study these time periods, and it's like, well, there's nothing preserved. There's nothing here for me to study. So now I have to make up something in my mind to try to culminate, what the experience that was happening. So I hope that answered your question, but I think it came to the absence of stories. And I just kind of felt, as Ms. Merle kind of mentioned, in being a part of the struggle, it was my responsibility. If I'm writing about something, it is also my responsibility to continue forth with, figuring out like, who can I get in contact with? And Miss Carol has been central in getting in contact with all of you guys, and actually persuading all of you guys to, entrust me to, yes, awesome. She did a wonderful job. I don't know if you wrote an email or sent a text or even over the phone, but as you guys have thanked me, I just thank you guys for, just entrusting me with your stories, and to be the person to be, your interviewer, to even share your story with others. So yeah, I hope, was that a sufficient answer?
That was
That was good.
Yeah, that was fun. Oh, good.
I think this whole project right now is at the start. We're at the start of something.
Yeah.
I don't know how anybody else feels about it, but it feels like a beginning. That more of our story for that time period needs to be told, and we're just beginning to put the pieces together. It's like
Right.
a big puzzle, and so I'm glad we're at the beginning. I'm not sure what the other assignments Ms. Merrill will have for us, but I'm willing to do as much as I'm able. Feel free to come back to me for more material, contacts with other people that maybe are worth talking to or important to talk to. But this feels like a beginning, and I'm happy about it. I'm surprised. I will say I'm surprised.
We're the vanguard group for Maya's research, but in the process, I've given her other names, you know, and that's what I was asking everybody else. If there are people that, and you know, I gave her Charmaine's name because talking to Charmaine, she made some connection to when everyone got arrested.
Right.
And what that meant, that she and me and others had to sort of step into leadership positions that we weren't really ready to do, but it was like, you have to do it. And you know, Yosette Johnson, she remembers when the state troopers were coming on the campus. So, and she remembers what it was like being in on Du Bois campus. Yeah. So, and Nate Bynum with the, you know, Paterno and what he was doing. So there are different.
Did he finally leave?
Huh?
Did Nate finally leave?
Stopped it.
Yes, he was working up there also. We didn't always know he was working, but talking to Bob Moses and getting Clark Arrington. So I'm going to give an appeal to everybody here that if there's some other people that you sort of remember, or if you talk with them and they have some stories, then get that information to Maya, because it will make the story. We're just starting with the 6 of us, but we can expand and, you know, fill in so many of the pieces that a lot of us don't remember.
Yeah.
Really? From other people that I was there, but I don't remember.
Right.
Right.
I was surprised.
And you know, I think that one of the things that happens here is that there are folks who've already gone, whether it's Phillips or Vince Benson or Shelley, who were key at, you know, throughout that period. And now they're gone from us. And as they try to get some more, they try to read up on getting information about Vince, and of course, my last full conversation with Freddie was one point where we were honored by the Black Caucus up there, and we had a long conversation over the course of 2 days. If I hadn't had it, he was dead before the end of the year. Yeah. Before the end of that year. So
we owe those people who have gone, who have passed on. We owe it to them because they were all a part of what we all experienced. And so I think it's important that we make sure we include their names when we're talking, so you know that it's Shelley Todd and Fred T and stuff were all involved in this. And Vince.
Somebody asked me how come I didn't mention more names in the article. I said then it would have just been a page full of names, because there were so many people who were involved in doing so many different pieces of it. Just like the building of the wall, and with the architecture and engineer students, we were all gathered to pull that together without falling down.
So thank you, Maya. I'm thanking you again.
Wait, it's not over yet. It's not over yet.
I know.
It's not over yet.
In between.
You guys are trying to like end the conversation, in the interview before I'm ready.
The battery's starting to run down.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, it's almost over. It's almost over. I promise. I'll get
we have to clap
by 3.
We can, Maya. Okay. We have to clap when our hands can move. You know what I mean?
Get the blood circulating.
Yeah. Yeah, but I have 2 more questions. The first one is, as you reflect over a time as a college student, through this the individual interview that I had with you guys, and also this group interview, what is one thing that you would have told your 17-year-old or 21-year-old self as you reflect back now? So like, I don't know what that one thing will be, but if you could think
Study.
of at least one thing, study. Okay.
Go to class.
Yes.
Ditto on that.
I still have nightmares of classes that I signed up for and didn't go to.
Don't be procrastinative. You know, of course, I can tell myself, my 80-year-old self, that you know, don't procrastinate all the time, okay?
Yeah.
Because the idea of procrastinating for me is that, well, I work better under pressure. Well, I guess you do. It's the time of the thing. What else can you do? You have no more time left. So I would tell myself, get a better work habits going on, okay?
Yeah.
Unfortunately, Miss Goody Two Shoes me, I was getting to all my classes, staying up
yeah.
and doing other stuff, but I don't
She's
know.
a credit to her race.
I
guess
think you were an excellent Goody Two Shoes, really.
Huh?
You were an excellent Goody Two Shoes. Excellent.
That's
With that,
right.
you got all that stuff saved, got all that documentation between you and
Yeah.
Beverly.
Woo!
Stuff
They
that
got it
stuff that
all.
was gone
They got it
forever.
all.
Yeah.
I don't have as much as Carol, I don't think. I got other documentation taken care of. I don't think I have as much as Carol.
Yeah, I don't know, Beverly. But anyway.
I would just say, just never accept no as the final answer.
Yeah.
Right.
I think for me, I would sort of say that try to be involved in as many things as you can, because you have no idea how those experiences and that knowledge will help you as you grow.
Right.
And we've all sort of attested to the fact that what we did back then directly affected what we ended up doing.
That's
And
right.
how we did it, and our view of life.
Yes.
You know.
The college experience has value. It really does. And I don't think I had any clue as to what the value was when going in. But over time, various pieces of it, I would kind of reach back without even realizing, hey, that experience I had at Penn State, I can use that now. And I will also say, I told Maya, and they don't have to do this now, learning how to swim was a requirement.
It was.
And many people were their last quarter up there in the pool day, night, day. And I will say that I was one of those people.
I was the second one.
And I do value that. I value the classical music study that I had. I value the people that I met. A lot of times you don't realize that the people you meet, you think that's it. Like, bye, see you later. But somehow I keep coming back around to these Penn State people. And it's a good thing. I'm like, well, this is a surprise. I thought we were done. And here they are again in the best project that I've been involved in recent times is this one. So
Wow.
What happens to you in college, it will surprise you over your life of how valuable it is. So, here we are,
Wow.
Penn State, back at it.
That's right.
Years later.
The struggle
Yeah.
continues.
Yeah.
Power to the people.
So I think every one of you have kind of answered this question, but I guess I kind of want to ask it one more time. What history did you want to tell in sharing your story in this project for like about your experience at Penn State? So like, what did you want to share with others that maybe you hadn't shared before this time and being involved in a project?
For me, it's that things can be done. That we want the younger people to know that what we did, and we didn't always know what we were doing, but we did it. And so that the things that in your time, go ahead and jump in there and do something. Do it with a conviction, do it with knowledge of past so that you can build on that, but do something to make things better for both yourself and for those who are with you right then and those who are coming after you. Do something.
That sounds good. What she said.
Sounds good. And I think I would add to it that also always work on your character and who you are inside.
Yeah.
So that,
Yeah.
keep that always in the forefront so that no matter what happens, no matter what goes on, you still have you to like.
That's right.
You
That's
are
right.
there's nobody like you. And so
Mhm.
you are you. Okay. And so I think I would press on for people to do all that Carol said, and also keep your integrity about yourself and your wits about you.
Somebody,
Right.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Somebody once said, when you're green, you grow. When you're ripe, you rot. So I always want to grow. I want to grow constantly. That's what I want to do. And so
I would just say that no project or place is too big that you can't conquer it.
sounds good. Sounds good.
And work at it together.
That's right.
So much better than the individual. And
That's
I
right.
think we're a living proof of the collective aspect of, of progress.
Yeah. Ask
You
questions.
know, Penn State was a launching pad. A launching pad. The people who were there were folks you were connected with. And there was this whole piece for me that we had a right to be there, and we had a right to be here in this country.
Oh, yeah.
Period. We'll talk to that.
Right.
Still talking?
Okay, our batteries are running down.
Yeah. No.
Yeah.
I am done. I wasn't sure if Mr. Collins was still talking, so I didn't want to put him on mute. So I just want to say thank you to each and every one of you guys for just taking the time, even today, even though it was hectic and some people had to go back on their schedule and change and rearrange, but we conquered, we did it. And I am so grateful for just each of you saying yes, because your yes has given me an opportunity to even go forth in this project. I think sometimes I'm just sit back and I'm just like, what did I, sometimes I'm like, what did I get myself into? What did I actually start? And I'm just like, I don't know. I guess my inquisitive nature about things and like you said, Miss Cynthia, asking questions, always wondering, okay, where is this at? What is this? How can I figure out this? Has landed me here and landed me to get to know each and every one of you guys. And I just can't express how thankful I am, but I hope that the project in itself will be able to state and express my thankfulness for each and every one of you in joining me in this interview and also in this project. So thank you, and that's a wrap.